Welcome to Veterans Range. We're really excited for you to come visit next week. One of the things that makes shooting fun is that we do it in an extremely safe manner, and that's going to be all the way from before you get to the range to the conclusion of your visit. So when you come to the range, you need to dress appropriately. That includes having a hat. I want you to have a high collared shirt so hot brass doesn't fall down it. You need to have some closed-toed shoes. Also, always going to wear eye protection and hearing protection. If you don't have eye and ear protection, we'll provide that for you here at the range. And then when you're done shooting, because there's some lead that could contaminate your skin, we're going to go ahead and use some special wipes that will remove lead and other heavy metals from your hands. So again, we're talking about lethal weapons here, and we need to treat them with the utmost caution. That context of safety is what makes our trip to the range fun and informational. So whenever we come to the range, safety is our first priority, and there are a lot of different ways of articulating the main rules of gun safety or safe gun handling. The one I like to use is conventionally attributed to Colonel Jeff Cooper, who was a founder of the civilian gun training industry in the United States. It has 4 rules. The first rule is really a kind of general orienting principle, and then there are 3 rules that speak to our actions. So the first rule of gun safety is to treat every gun as if it was loaded. So this is a philosophical point because there are times when we know that a gun is not loaded because we've cleared it, we've checked that it's clear, and we may just set it aside for a moment. But every time we go back to that gun, we want to again treat it as if it's loaded and make sure it's in a safe condition. The same thing if anybody hands us a gun or we hand a gun to anyone. If we assume that it's loaded, it may not be loaded, but if we go in with that assumption, then we can proceed safely. Now, this gun that I have right here is not a real gun. It's a laser gun, and I'm using it here just for demonstration purposes. So I don't have to worry whether this gun is actually loaded because it's not a real gun. The second rule of gun safety is never to point your gun at anything you don't want to kill or destroy, or we can also say always point your gun in a safe direction. Now, at this particular range, there's only one safe direction, and that's what we call downrange toward the berm, right? Also, below the level of the trees there. If we shoot over the trees, there is life on the other side of that berm. So our safe direction at this range is always downrange toward the berm. The range does have some sides which are built up a little bit, but those are not considered safe directions. So again, when we're at this range, keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. That's down at the berm. When you're out in the real world, again, think about never pointing the gun at anything that you don't want to harm or destroy, and that would include yourself. Okay. Third rule of gun safety is always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. It takes a lot of practice to be able to index your finger along part of the gun that isn't the trigger. Our hand naturally wants to clench, and so it's natural, and that's the way guns are designed, is to get our finger in a natural position in that trigger guard on the trigger. So we want to be always very mindful of keeping our finger off the trigger until I've got the gun sighted in and I'm ready to shoot, and then I can go to the trigger. Okay. Fourth rule of gun safety is always to be aware of your target as well as what lies beyond it, right? So I have some targets downrange there. I'm aware of those as my target when I'm shooting, but I also, in many cases, want to be aware of what is behind it or even around it. This is a range that's a communal range. I may have gone inside, come back out, not realize that someone went downrange when they thought I wasn't here. I didn't know they were there. So I not only have to know that that's my target there, but I really need to be aware of all of the surroundings, even here on the range. But again, you can imagine, especially if you're out in life in a crowded situation. These rules are sort of overlapping so that you can actually violate one of the 4 rules of gun safety and not do harm to yourself or anybody else. But obviously it's best that we always try to follow all 4 of those rules of gun safety so that we create a situation where we can actually enjoy what we're doing out here.